Welcome to r/malicious compliance, where we share stories of people conforming to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. And today we have 3 great stories. So subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. Pushy Shirt tries to sell me a security system that doesn't keep your data private, tells me to talk to my neighbors, so I share my concerns with them, and all of them cancel their service. The second story. Manager cheated at work and was fired. The third story. Lawyer claims he didn't receive the fax we sent. The first story is, want me to talk to your other customers? Will do. A tiny bit of background. My family recently moved into a new neighborhood that we chose because we love the neighbors. When we were touring the house, C came over and told us he'd mow our lawn for us. J told us all about the kids who our kid would make friends with, and X invited us over for a cookout. We try to be good neighbors too. Our front yard is where the neighbor kids know they can come in and play in the shade with our dog and our kid. We installed a small but growing garden as an excuse to be outside and chat with our neighbors. I'm about halfway through baking brownies for everyone on our little cul-de-sac as a thank you for the warm welcome we've received. This neighborhood is a place where folks look out for each other, in part because most of us know we're the people who keep us safe. Story time. The other day I was sitting outside watching my kid play with his best friend on our block and friend's older brother. Older brother was asking me about our garden as an excuse to tell me all about what he was learning about pollinators. My kid makes a break for the street, so I run after him and pick him up. No cars ever go by, but we're trying to teach him road safety early. As I'm carrying him back into the house, older brother is still talking to me when he's interrupted by someone with a branded shirt and a clipboard. I immediately tell the shirt that I'm not interested in buying anything, to which he replies that he's not trying to sell me anything. He launches into his apparently non-sales pitch for the home security system he sells, and tells me all the details for the video doorbell that several of my neighbors have been installing. Now, in case you didn't know, big security systems like Amazon Ring and ADT regularly hand over all the video footage to the police, without requiring any sort of warrant from them. That's not to mention that several groups have been discovered by listening into your conversations in the name of transcribing them. I ask him how his company avoids compromising my data, a question he dodges by scrunching up his face and moving on with his pitch. When I press him on it, he lies to me based on what I already know about his company, that uses orange signs. He then tells me that C, J, and X sent him over here because they said I was nice, implying that because I won't accept his lie, somehow I'm the D here. After interrupting my conversation with the neighbor kid as I'm holding a baby, I'm obviously trying to take inside, lying to me, and now trying to guilt me into a system I don't want, and believe is bad for my community. We reach an impasse. He falls back to say, well, CJ and X have had it installed. Talk to them. Cue malicious compliance. I proceed to go over to C, J, X, and one other neighbor, also C. He sells the product to by the end of the day and have a normal friendly chat with them. I slide into the conversation that I don't care for that company because of the way that they hand over data to the cops and can listen in at any time. Fast forward to today, when every neighbor except Also C has taken down their orange sign and had the system uninstalled. I think Also C never had it installed, but is keeping the sign up just as a potential deterrent. So if you're reading, Shirt, if you had just been honest with me, I wouldn't have felt the need to quite so aggressively share my concerns. You would have just lost out on one sale rather than the whole neighborhood. If I were you, I'd say I don't live there. Yes, the official orange signed security company has some of the most assertive and bordering on unethical salesmen I've ever dealt with. We had one last year that just won't go away. I ended up having to threaten a trespassing charge if he didn't go away. Ridiculous. One of these people came in and tried to sell me and my husband on an orange sign system. I find it interesting that talking about which neighbors have already signed up is one of their main sales tactics. He did that with us too. We told the guy from the beginning that we were moving, so we obviously weren't going to buy a security system for the house we were selling. We had literally already closed on the new house, but we're planning to move before we put the house we were selling up. We're in. He went on and on anyway. He wasn't rude or anything, so we chatted with him for a bit and then reminded him that we were moving. I'm not sure what his purpose was. We didn't tell him the part about how we were literally moving down the street, even closer to the neighborhood he had already recorded. The next story is, never peeve off the secretary that deals with reimbursing expenses. I was working in a company doing installation of saunas. For this job, we hit the road Wednesday to Friday, and Monday and Tuesday we were back in the company getting everything ready for the other 3 days. You see, while we worked with prefabricated parts, the sauna was adapted to the room it would be in, and thus each sauna was different. Sometimes a little, sometimes a lot. So we spent 2 days collecting and adapting the parts, and 3 days on the road putting them together. For the days we were on the road, we could eat on the company's dime, usually in the hotels we slept in. All we had to do is bring a receipt. But then I started bringing food from home, and the secretary asked me why I no longer got reimbursed for my food. So I told her I do not have receipts, since I brought food from home. Then she told me that I still can get a certain per diem, and told me how to get that. Usually she did not point that out to people, but she liked me and knew I really needed the money, so she decided to do me a solid. However, her manager must have overheard this and was not happy with her. You see, he was really stingy, and did not want people to know their rights concerning reimbursement, and officially forbid her to tell people all the things they can get reimbursed for. She should simply tell everybody she's not allowed to tell them all the ways to get reimbursements, and they need to look up the rules themselves. She asked to get this in writing, so she could show people if somebody complained. Then she did exactly what she was told. She wrote a company-wide email. I'm paraphrasing here since that was many years ago, and thus I no longer have the email. Due to a recent event, I'm no longer allowed to explain to you all the many ways you can get reimbursed. From now on, you have to read the rules yourself, all 3 pages. I attached a copy to this email, and remember you can only make claims for the last 12 months, no longer back then. That of course, nobody thought you could go back longer. Most people thought you can only do last month, and if you forgot something you won't get it reimbursed. So the employees suddenly found out about several things the company pays for nobody was really aware of. For example, they have a right to a free monthly ticket for our public transportation system if they're not receiving gas money. Even if you live right next to the company, most people thought you need to live at least 5 kilometers away, because that's the minimum to get gas money. You would not believe how many people suddenly decided to drive the bus to work. You see, you do not actually have to buy it. You just say you want it and get the money every month with your paycheck, as long as you ask every year. Most people were also not aware they have a right to get a per diem for the days they're in the company, and not on the road, or that you still get a minimum per diem on the road, even if you do not have a receipt, for example because you brought food from home, or just had some fast food. Another thing most people had no idea about it is that if you're close enough to sleep at home, you still have a right to get $70 a night. You only need a receipt for the hotel if it's more than $70, so if you sleep any cheaper, you still get the full $70 minimum. But the biggest thing was that you could go back up to 12 months and get reimbursed for all these examples I've just mentioned, and quite a few more. Those are just the ones I remember. I know the whole thing was 3 pages long. So every single person working there got at least a high 3-figure bonus that month, most even lower 4-figure. Her manager was peeved, but she simply complained she did exactly what he asked her to do. People in the comments asked if there was any further fallout, and indeed there was. So let Aunt Edit tell you all about it. I later heard through the grapevine that the manager got in real trouble with the owner over this. You see, the owner was of the opinion that every employee should be fully informed, since they have a right to these reimbursements. That is why they're there. He was really peeved when he heard how stingy the manager was, and how he tried to keep money the employees rightfully deserve simply by not telling them about it. You see, as a manager, he got bonuses when he stayed below budget on a project, and that was one of his dirty little tricks to help achieve this. I only know he used other tricks, but not exactly what he did. There were rumors he had to give back all 3 bonuses he had earned while being in this position. I know for sure he left the company 4 months later to pursue other opportunities. Basically, he kept money from dozens of hard workers, just to earn more money himself, despite the fact he already earned a lot more money as a manager. Our owner is a self-made man who built up the company from scratch and has done every job in the company himself, except the clerical jobs, but he's worked on every single machine in production and went on several tours to do installations. A fact he's very proud of, and has every right to be, which boss really knows every job in the company from a personal experience. That is the reason he's so generous with his perks. His philosophy is that a content worker is a much better worker, due to motivation, and is often ready to go the extra mile to give our customers the best we can. Like staying as long as needed on Fridays, so the customer has the sauna ready for the weekend, instead of having to wait till we return on Monday, since the project was more work than we thought, instead of just doing the minimum we have to do. He also pays his workers really well. For example, I earned $14 an hour, roughly $11, and that was 20 years ago, so with inflation that would be easily $18 today, despite having 0 qualifications or experience for this job. He believes that this makes his company so successful. In roughly 40 years, he made a 4-man company he founded into the by far biggest producer of saunas in my country, and he even delivers to all neighboring countries as well. We offer everything from a 2-man sauna that fits into a large wardrobe, up to huge professional settings, for example for water adventure parks, and we also offer extras like a solarium, a whirlpool, and whatnot else you can wish to add to your sauna. His motto is, if you can imagine it, we can build it. That's a wonderful story. It's especially nice to know that not only did the employees do a good job knowing that, but the owner was furious about it. I'm glad the manager got what he deserved, and that your boss is such a good and honest man. I had a supervisor like that when I was doing deliveries. We had to be given bottled water in the summer, coats and other things in the winter, since we didn't drive trucks but unloaded them by hand. He didn't provide any of that, and yelled at people if they pointed out that the materials given to us, when we were hired, said they had to be provided. He did everything in his power to cut costs to get a higher monthly bonus, including not doing the required maintenance on our trucks. It was a complete nightmare. But another supervisor came in a month later and saw this. He immediately corrected all the old supervisor's mistakes, and the old boss was fired for shenanigans. The last story is, call you every time I send you a fax? Will do. Many years ago, before email took over the corporate environment, I worked at a large law firm and sent and received faxes for 8 hours a day. I had 5 fax machines and 2 coworkers. We logged every fax. There was an incoming log and an outgoing log, and there was the ever-important confirmation sheet. Opposing counsel was the kind of lawyer that gives lawyers a bad name. Stereotypical jackass who played stupid lawyer games, dropping documents at 5 p.m. on the Friday before a 3-day weekend. That kind of petty SH that adds unnecessary misery to the profession. My guy comes to the mailroom and says opposing counsel claims he didn't receive a fax we said we sent. I call BS. I sent it myself. The confirmation sheet exists. Opposing counsel probably lost it, or his secretary didn't give it to him. Whatever. My guy knows I sent the fax. Opposing counsel wants to be called every time we send him a fax. He's accused me of not doing my job and lying, and now he's creating extra work for me. Okay, let's play. What he wanted and expected was for me to call his secretary and let her know a fax was on the way. Nope, F that. I called his secretary and told her I was calling for my guy. She assumed he needed to talk to her boss, so she connected me. Opposing counsel answers expecting some kind of substantive discussion. Instead, he gets the mailroom guy. I said, I've been told to let you know every time I send you a fax. I'm sending you a fax. We hang up. An hour later, I call him again. New fax. Half an hour after that, I call again. New fax. Another hour, another call, another fax. My guy comes to the mailroom with a big smile on his face. He's giddy, almost giggling. He says opposing counsel asked that the calls stop. He no longer needs to know when faxes are coming. He's tired of being interrupted. Sometimes you get exactly what you ask for. If the lawyer wants to play lawyer games and says call me when you send a fax, then you can him. Not his assistant legal aid office manager, him, because he said call me. You'd think a lawyer would know to use better language in his instructions, if he meant not me. Good for you. Don't forget to subscribe and have a good day.